Hi, everyone. This is Catching Up with the Nerds with your hosts, Tom and JC. This is a podcast about two dads that are catching up on all the nerdy stuff we missed, sharing how we pass on our nerdy passions to our kids, and deep diving into nerd pop culture to make it more accessible for you. Welcome back, everyone.
Hello. Oh, my voice.
Yo.
Hello.
Whoa.
You can hear the tiredness.
And for our guest today, we've got Tired Tom.
Yeah. Why am I tired? Because I watched the Justice League Snyder Cut.
Well, but before we get into that, Tom, who are you? Who are you and who are we?
Hi, everyone. My name is still Tom. I'm still 50% of the Catching Up with the Nerds podcast. I'm still 100% French. And I think actually I'm going to change that to 99% French and 1% Batman. Now you know. I have two kids, one who just turned 5. Happy birthday, Louis. And the other one who is 11 and a half and will be turning, I guess 12 this year. Emily, and I'm still married to my lovely wife, Elizabeth, or Ellie, or Liz, however you want to call her. What am I into? Video games, massively, comics, a lot, and anime, a little bit. I think that's it. What about you, sir? Who are you?
Nice. Who am I? I am Juan Carlos Garay, better known as JC. I am the other 50% of the podcast. And I am married to a lovely woman named Fiorella. I have an 11-year-old named Aiden and a now 6-year-old named Arabelle.
Yay.
But happy birthday to Louis. Happy birthday to Arabelle.
Happy birthday, kids.
They're both 1 year older, but seemingly not wiser. But we love them regardless. But yeah, it's still a thing. So anyways, I am massively into comic books, huge comic book nerd. I love me some graphic novels. I love me some nerdy shows, love me some nerdy movies. And I occasionally dabble in the video game world. And here we are to talk about the Justice League.
Yay. So it's been a long time coming, right? We've been waiting for that to drop for a couple of years now, and it's finally here. It's finally here. So again, we'll assume the default position for everyone who's listening is that you have watched the movie.
Yes, we will not be recapping the plot because it is 4 hours, but yet surprisingly not a lot of plot.
No, exactly. It's 4 hours for a reason which we will talk about. Just now. So we'll take the default position that you guys have all watched the film. So basically for two reasons is that we like JC said, won't have time to recap the entire plot, and then also I don't want to do any spoilers stuff, so we're gonna talk about everything that happened in there.
Yes, please. Worry about spoilers. If you have not watched it, please stop now. Go watch it, and then come back and listen.
Yeah. So we will not be spoiler free on this one. How are we doing this, JC? Shall we first discuss what we loved about it, or do you want to go quickly through?
Just generally, what were your thoughts? Just top line, just to set the tone of how you will be attacking this review.
Okay, so we'll go into what we love and what we didn't love, I guess. But what I thought about it as soon as I finished it, I went, loved it. And also, I will never watch the Whedon cut ever again. There's no way I can go back to that. It's now been tainted by the Snyder cut. It's been taken over. It's been destroyed. Yep. If it was a boxing match, it would be KO. After the first 4 rounds, basically. I think and I just loved it. I just it feels like the same. I've watched the same movie, but better. It's like rediscovering somebody you loved, and you've not looked at them the same way you were looking at them, and suddenly they turn around. You're like, oh my god, she's beautiful. And yes, that was where it was. That was Justice League. I went, you're a beautiful piece of art. I love you. I lost you there.
That's deep, dude. Deep. Like that is so deep, man. Like I'm like, wow, you've been going through some stuff this week, Tom. Clearly,
it was. I loved it. I loved it more than I expected to love it. Wasn't my expectation? I think because my expectation was super low. I actually came out the other. When I finished with it, I was like, yes, that's what I wanted. Yes, it's 4 hours long. It could have been shorter. We'll get into that, I'm sure. But I had fun. You know what? The main point is that it was fun to watch, right? And that's all we want. That's all we want. So we'll start we'll start at the end of it. It's like it was fun for me to watch. Yeah.
So Tom, I concur.
Good. You concur. I'm glad that you concur. And you're concurring hard. Yeah.
I concur so much on this. Like, it's just like it's concurring everywhere. So this is the deal. I agree in that I enjoyed every part of it. Like, I really enjoyed it. I would never watch the Justice League, but then at the same time, I don't think I'd ever watch this again either. It's such an investment. And that's the only, I think I would go back and watch moments of it for 100% sure. They're so metal, so baller. Like, I absolutely love them, but it is an investment to watch this movie. But it surprisingly wasn't like, I didn't feel tired watching it. Like, it definitely like took time, but I was into it the whole time. Like, I was never sitting there going like, oh God, can we just progress the plot and get to the good bit? Because all the bits are the good bits. It was more like I had issues with like, there is not much of a plot to progress most of the movie. But I didn't care. Like, as soon as I realized that, like, and within the first part, like part 1, it becomes instantly clear that the plot will not matter. Like, it's instantly clear. And I love that we got that up front. It was just like, no, this is all style, all like mega visuals, and I was there for it. So yes, I enjoyed it.
I agree to a certain extent, though. It's like I think the first hour and 45 minutes, it's all about, look at us, look how we can do slow motions, look how slowly we can progress through that story. Look at us, we look good. We got an IMAX camera. It looks awesome. But then past that hour, I said like hour 45, the first half of the film basically is just that. Once you get to the second part of the film, not part 2, but like the second batch of 2 hours, the last 2 hours, it just suddenly goes, way, here's the story. Now we've put everything in place. This is what's happening. Let's go. And I think the last 2 hours are just really, that is just amazing. The last 2 hours went by like this. Like, it lasted 15 minutes for me. I was surprised by it.
Agreed.
I guess. Do you want to move on to what we love though? Because I think that's a good way to.
Let's be positive first. Yeah.
Let's start with the positive. I think. I love the fact of that they actually finally took the time to introduce all the characters. That's what I love the most.
Yes.
So and this is why the first 2 hours are super slow. It's because you need to properly introduce Cyborg, which is actually, to me, when I look back at it, is the single most important character in the entire film. If you look at it, they took a little bit more time to introduce the Flash. And instant that if we're going to talk about stuff we didn't love, there's one thing about the Flash that I didn't love, not the character himself, but one scene I actually hated. So they introduced those two characters. You don't need to get yourself introduced to Batman or Superman or Aquaman or Wonder Woman at that point. We all know who those four are.
Yes.
The other two guys who are massively important, even more important than the other four in that story, it felt to me. So the Flash and Cyborg get a proper introduction, and you get to know them. And then also the other thing I loved was you get a proper introduction of what the stakes are.
Okay.
So who Steppenwolf is, who Darkseid is. Well, you maybe not in the first.
No, but you do. You do. Yeah. No. Yeah.
So do you remember what we were saying in a previous episode when we were looking at the Snyderverse and all that stuff? Or the original cut, it was that, well, one of the thing I said was, okay, there's going to be a big fight, but what for and against, and who against who? I'm like, I didn't care because he wasn't properly introduced. Like, there was nothing. There's no the big enemy is coming. I'm like, yeah, but who is he? Like, what should I care? Yeah. And what do they want? And that was fixed in this version. And that was the most important part for me. That was this. Yeah. Like, we have proper introduction and a proper setup.
Yes.
So that's why I sort of disagree with you when you said the first part is like super slow, it's all stylized and all that stuff, which is true. Yeah. But then also it's slow for a reason in some parts.
Yeah, no, no, but yes, but I agree 100% that it does do the setup way better than the previous
Mm.
movie. Like let's be honest, we get an actual plot. Like while there are, and we'll get to this point later, like there
Yeah,
are issues with the
of
plot.
course.
At least it is a plot to poke holes into, rather
Yes.
than the previous one, which was like that was blah, that was nothing. Like they came together too quickly. There's no real reason for them to do what they were doing. It was
Yeah.
just like not well done at all. So no, I 100% agree that yes, it does. The setup is better, and I do love the fact that this is and the difference that I really find is that between Flash and Cyborg is that this is a Cyborg origin for
Yeah.
sure. It is
Absolutely.
not a Flash origin, but it gives us enough of the Flash that we get emotionally connected to the Flash,
Yes.
right? Which I like way better now. It's like I always liked the character and I always liked like how it was played, but I feel like I got to spend more time with him now,
Mm.
and it was super fun. It was super fun hanging
It-
out with the Flash.
in the Whedon cut, like the Flash is just that dude there, and he's okay. He's a little bit quirky and maybe
Yeah,
mad, but there's nothing that connects the audience to him really. So it's just like he's just that the what's it called, the fun figure in the entire plot, like the relief guy,
correct.
the guy
Yeah,
that's like
comic
you
relief.
can follow the comic relief. That's the word I'm looking for. You know the guy is right there in the middle is gonna crack a joke.
Yeah,
That's it. Like there's no substance apart from that. So I like that they did that. They took a little bit of time to introduce him properly, and the story with his dad in prison and him trying to get him out. That's
yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah. And as far as stuff that I like, I'll throw out kind of the first kind of big take I've got on the
Mm.
movie because it's the main thing that I took away from the movie is that Zack Snyder is just masterful at iconizing, right?
Sure, absolutely.
And it's like just creating those icons of the characters. It's like the characters are you immediately feel how can I put this? It's like it creates a feeling around the character that is not based on their writing, on how the character's written. It's just
Mm.
on how they look and how they move through space and stuff. And it's just like that level of iconizing you don't find a lot. And I will say is sorely missing from the Marvel universe. Like
Sure. Yeah.
the when I was watching the movie, the scene I kept coming back to, which is one of my favorite scenes of the whole Marvel universe, is the scene from Thor Ragnarok where
Mm.
Thor finally gets like the he understands how he can control power of lightning or the
Yeah.
thunder power without the hammer. And
Mhm.
then he has that scene where he's like jumping through the air and they're playing that Led Zeppelin
Ah,
song
the slow
and
motion one, like with
he
that
just
big long
slows
shot.
it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, and
Yeah.
it's just one of my favorite because I'm like, oh, Marvel, why don't you do more of this? And Zach is that's all I'm doing. That
This
he basically just
does.
he's like, that's all I'm going to do.
To
I'm
be
going
fair,
to
though, Zack Snyder is like it's like you know those toddlers that they found one thing on the iPad and they keep pressing the button. He's like, I'm doing this. Oh, it's funny. I'm doing it again, again, again. And he does it a
over.
lot. But look, one of my favorite shot in the entire history of superheroes is actually in Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
If you watch it, do you remember when Batman is in the Batmobile and he crashes and Superman just
Yeah.
landed like, and there's that scene when just Superman just rips off the top of the car and then they're
And
standing. You just get that shot from side, like they're both standing in like
yeah.
Batman standing in his car, and then you got Superman on top of him,
Yeah.
and there's that beautiful shot, and that's my favorite
Yeah.
out of all the superheroes, and that's the Zack Snyder, shot again. It's like this thing. It's like iconic. Like I'm looking at it I need to buy it online somewhere, like a framed shot of that because I just find it so awesome. And he that's what he does. He does it so well. And every time there's going to be, he's done it in 300. He's done it in, was it Watchmen?
Yep. Watchmen.
There's a lot of shots like that when it's like just either slow motion or like ultra super slow motion when he's just one or two characters facing down or something. I was just, he's the king at that.
Oh yeah, and just like using CGI for that, like he uses CGI in the way that CGI should be used.
Yep.
Like it's not a lot of like fast punchy, which unfortunately, once again, it has always been my criticism of the Marvel universe is that the third act always has punchy CGI where I'm like, wait, what's happening? Like
Yeah,
I struggle to follow the punchiness. Whereas here I'm like, I know exactly what's happening and who's getting punched and how hard they're getting punched, because it just gets slowed down. But then the visuals around it, every one of those is a poster I would buy. Like Aquaman gets an amazing scene, and just like rally, like we had the Trident scene already in the previous version, but it's still so effing well done. I'm glad that it's a part of, like, it was Zack's scene. And then like Wonder Woman, like anytime she's flying through the air in some way or other, she is just so metal. And I will say one of my favorite things in the movie where like I literally clapped was when they played the Wonder Woman theme. And same with Batman.
That song is just amazing. Like every time you got the first few notes, and you're like, oh my god, the theme tunes of like the Wonder Woman theme tune is just made for big screen. Actually, what you're talking about, things we didn't like. There's one thing.
There's more things I like before we get out to. There's way more. All right, so we're gonna talk Batmobile. How do we rank this Batmobile?
Yeah, like you said, it's metal.
Oh, dude, it's so cool. It is like it is nowhere near like Nolan's Batmobiles, because those are so grounded on like things that feel like they could be real, and like the bat cycle shooting out is still one of my favorite things in all those movies. So that is, but I had forgotten how good this Batmobile is. It's actually like pretty amazing. Like it gets to have a moment. And what I like about Batman's gadgets in these movies is that they make the point, because in some movies, like Batman feels almost like, and that was Nolan what was doing. He made Batman feel larger than life because he is a symbol, and the whole point of those movies was like Batman as a symbol, right? Whereas here, it's not Batman as a symbol necessarily, but it's about how does Batman fit in with gods, and he has to have technology of that level to fit in with gods. So that's why he spends like a decent amount of his time being a mechanic in all these movies, like just
him and Alfred are like mechanics. It's just like Batman's garage.
Exactly. And because we get the training like the Rocky training montage in like Batman v Superman. It's like, that's what he has to do just to be able to stand next to these gods. And that's why that scene you talked about him as Superman, what makes the scene even more effective is like the framing of that scene is just awesome, and the lighting and everything, but just the fact that Batman is rising slowly, scene, like rising to meet Superman at his level. That's the ongoing theme with this Batman, and I kind of love it. That's why
even the conversation that he has with him in Batman Superman is like, every time I'm air punching every time I see that scene. It's like, he's asking Superman like, do you bleed?
Yeah,
and just flies off, and he's like, you will. I'm like, just thinking about it makes me happy. I
know, but so good.
But you're right, and one of the gadgets that they use in what he's using it in Justice League is that thing which is like absorbing powers and stuff to try to diffuse attacks. I'm like, this is awesome, and that wasn't in the Whedon cut at all. So I don't know why though.
Yeah, because it's like it's the only way he would stand next to him. Because if not, he becomes kind of like a Hawkeye, where he's like a little bit kind of left out because he's like he doesn't have the powers.
Well, Hawkeye is the one funny thing he's got is like there's always something happening, and then you got Hawkeye coming running. Is like what I miss. That's what Batman is like. You guys are Flash is like super fast, and Sun is like, oh, you're done. Okay, fine. Yeah, exactly. But it's true though. It's there's a lot of that. A lot of gods, like you put gods among humans. There's a lot of that in there again still.
And then the other thing that I once again I cheered was all the Green Lantern cameos. Like even though they weren't like cameos, but just like showing us that Green Lantern was a presence in this universe. I'm like, so happy about it. So happy. Martian Manhunter.
Oh my god, I want more of that.
Yeah, and I will say this carries over to like the first scene he shows up in, totally unnecessary scene. They could have totally cut that scene out.
That shit. Yeah,
completely cut it. But I will say like his design, like the look of Martian Manhunter, I loved, man. Like it's really well done. Like I'm ready for him to have his own movie like instantly off the back of his look.
This guy, and actually, we said about I don't know if you want to talk in the do we want more section, but that's part of the things I want more.
Yes.
and the fact how the movie ends also, that's clearly set up for a follow-up. And if there's a follow-up, that we've got to have more of the Martian Manhunter, because the guys looks like, we only see him for a couple of minutes really at the end, but like the it had an impact on me. I was, oh my god! Like, usually I don't really get that excited about characters when you just see them for a couple of seconds, and this time I was like, I need to know more about you. I want to see how it's handled. I want to see what can you do in that universe, because he's meant to be one of the most powerful characters in the entire DC world universe.
Yep.
So if you check his list of attributes and powers, it's just not even funny. It's not even funny.
Totally.
And he should have a badass origin story as well. There could be a dedicated movie to him.
Totally. No, and he's always been portrayed as like a Superman equivalent-ish in the DC universe.
What I wasn't expecting, like, it would have been funny to have Shazam in there dropping by at some point, within the battle. And what, I don't know if you noticed that the origin battle, the one where all the Amazonians are fighting together with humans and stuff like that. You've got, was it Ares? Like, there's a bunch of Greek gods, I think, like shooting thunders. I was like, oh my god, because they were in the Whedon cut. They were there, like literally for half a second. They were in that shot. And then that one, I love that they emphasized that he was part of, like, they were part of the battle, and like he's got these badass powers, and he was shooting thunders, like, the DC's Thor a little bit. And I was like, yes, I want to see more of that. Please give me more of that. There's a lot of characters, and again, that's taking us back to what we said last week. It's like, when you said, we were discussing about this would be a one-off, and it wouldn't be a follow-up to the Snyder cut, and they wouldn't be like, they would go into a completely different direction. I'm like, there's so much you can take from that film now. Build upon and build a badass universe, and that's the one thing that's been in the back of my mind ever since I finished it. I'm like, as an executive, the DC executive, like, you see this now and you see all the positive reviews you've got online from fans, not from critics but from fans. People love it. If you go on all the aggregated websites, the fan critics is always a lot higher. Like, Rotten Tomatoes got over like 90% from fans. If you go to Metacritic, it's the same, but critics, though, it's more mixed reviews. But like, what it matters at the end of the day is the fans' critics, right? It's what they thought about it, because they're the one who will be paying for it. They're the one who will pay for tickets and DVDs and Blu-rays. People love it, and you have to carry on with that. And that's what I'm saying. You have to carry on what's been started here. Like, you there's no way, to me, it feels like financially it makes no sense for DC to stop now.
I don't get, and not only that, I don't know if you saw the press release, but DC's actually come out and said that the Justice League, so the Joss Whedon cut, is canon. Which makes no sense to me. It makes no sense at all. Absolutely no. That movie does not tie into Man of Steel and BVS at all. This one ties in, like, well, I wouldn't say perfectly, ties in much better with those movies, and it sets up a ton.
There's so many ways you can go from there. It's just and the thing is, they've been saying for the last 10 years that they need, people have been saying that they're playing catch up to Marvel. Like, literally, you've done it now. Like, you can go. That movie is made, in my eyes, it's made Ben Affleck's Batman and all these characters. It's made it cool. I want to see definitely more Batman. Like, like Henry Cavill looks way better in this movie without the mustache situation going on. At least I didn't pick up on it this time as much. Wonder Woman has like so much character development left, because once again they underwrote her in this movie, but I understand why. I think it makes sense. And then I want to see the Jason Momoa come back from being Aquaman, because he's not really Aquaman in this movie yet. Really, he hasn't really taken up the I am the king of the seven seas or whatever it may be. I want him to come back once he's got his army as well. Like, there's just so much to build, and what I liked about this movie a lot too is that it is an epic in a way that no other superhero movie is an epic, or at least very few that I've seen. Like, I caught myself thinking about kind of like
Lord, like funny enough, I turn around and like in that scene in the Themysciran when like they come to save the queen, right? And the rest of the Themysciran show up and stuff, but it's too late. Like Steppenwolf has gone away with the mother box. It felt very Lord of the Rings. It felt like the Gandalf, that moment where they're like backed up, and I forget what there's a specific place where they're backed up, and then Gandalf comes like over the hill to save them. And just so much of this reminds me of like big epics like that. Like I caught myself thinking more about Game of Thrones than I did about like other superhero movies as I was watching this, which I'm like, I wish they would have done some of these scenes for Game of Thrones to iconize stuff like that in that way. Like, and I feel that that's where this is going. Like it's a big sprawling epic where like people are going to die, people are going to come back. Like it's about a quest for something bigger than what the character wants. It's just a quest for like humanity. I don't know. The stakes for me are just so much bigger. And I do want to see more now. And I don't know if, so we come to it afterwards, but there is a nice write-up of like where Zach wanted to take this. And it's very interesting, actually.
It's super interesting. It's super metal, like you said.
Yeah. Well, speaking of stuff that I have in my list of things that I found so metal, the Joker speech.
Oh, yes. So if you want to add that to the things I love that the nightmare scene that gets completely reimagined and revamped, and not right in the middle of the film because it made no sense when they dropped it in the Whedon cut. Now they put it completely at the end, and it makes a lot more sense, and it's a lot more interesting. And do you remember there's that scene in the Whedon cut where Flash comes back from the past or the future or whatever, and he tells Batman, "Oh, she's the key. Lois Lane's the key. Oh, I'm too early." I was like, "Huh? What do you want? What's that doing here?" And now it makes a lot more sense because of the nightmare scene at the end, which actually is the future.
Yeah. Well, we'll have to. I respectfully disagree. I think in some ways it makes less sense here because it's setting up something bigger. So in the Whedon version, it makes sense because it's the way that Batman decides to like calm Superman down. Because he's like, when they bring back Superman, he's like, wait, I need to, and he's like, I got a secret weapon. You keep thinking like, what is he? He's got like more kryptonite stuff. And no, he just rolls out Lois Lane. And that's the one thing from the Whedon cut that I actually thought was actually really clever, that like Batman was thinking like 3 steps ahead and just going like, oh no, if I get Lois, he'll be fine. And in this movie, Lois just happens to be there for no good reason. So that's the only part that I found like I did like a little bit better in the Whedon cut.
Wait. She was there for good reason. She was dropping coffee for every single day to the coffee guy, the police officer that was there. So but she hadn't been in a while. It was very coincidental. She hadn't been in a while. She happens to show up the day that Superman comes up. But we don't care. Like, I honestly don't care. But no, what it was is like in this one, the Lois Lane thing is something that will only be paid off in the future. Like it sets up something huge that we don't know about if not for if not for Zack Snyder's interviews, we actually know what that is, but the movie never tells you why Lois Lane's over. So if you look at it just from the movie perspective, it makes no sense, like why he sets that up, because we're never going to get the payoff. But when you listen to what Zack was thinking, it makes total sense, and it's very interesting. It's just setting up the rest of the story, it's just like, because what was it again? It's because he already had a bunch of films, another 2 or 3, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 more.
2 more, right?
2 more. Justice League was meant to be 3 films.
Yeah, including one where, because obviously part of the story is that you understand that Lois Lane is actually pregnant.
Oh, should we dive into this one?
Well, it's you can't, we can talk about it real quick, because then that will explain why the nightmare sequence makes more sense to me. That's why I loved it. That's what, to me, it made sense there, because of the whole pregnancy thing. And that would explain why Superman loses it, because then something happens to Lois Lane. But one thing I liked from the Snyder interview is that, well, his idea was to actually get Superman's son to be the new Batman.
Correct.
I was like,
mind blown. Mind blown.
Because what he just says, like, literally, he will be the Dark Knight with superpowers, and I was like, because you assume that he'll get the Superman powers, right?
Or maybe he doesn't. He must have.
Let me dream.
So just to recap, for everybody who hasn't seen that interview with Zack Snyder, which I was surprised, like there's a just Zack Snyder is playing this very interestingly, I will say. Just to give context for the interview, it's there's a lot of stuff in that movie that Zack has come out and said the studio didn't want me to put it in. It's been very clear, and he pushed for it to go in. And one of the things that he does say is that initially the cameo was not Martian Manhunter. The cameo was Green Lantern, and it was not Hal Jordan, like Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern. It was John Stewart Green Lantern.
All right.
Which would have been dope, dude. I would have loved to see who he cast for John Stewart. So that was a Green Lantern that he wanted to show up. So all he got away with like old Green Lanterns that have died already and on Earth and stuff like that. So it just shows that there was a lot of stuff that they allowed him to put in there that still doesn't make sense for the studio to let him put in there if this is where it ends, if this is a cul-de-sac, as Warner Brothers said, right?
Exactly.
So in the interview, he basically tells us what he's planning, which is in a future state, somehow Darkseid comes to Earth and stuff, and there's like a big war and whatnot. And at some point in that war, Lois is killed, right? And she's killed while being pregnant with Batman's baby, because Superman in that world has like gone away, or everybody thinks he's dead, or there's a reason why he's not there. And then Batman and Lois get together, and they happen to have a baby in that moment. But then when Superman comes back, it creates a moral conflict for Batman, because he's like, how do I tell him? Because he didn't think he was coming back. And then on top of that, Lois gets killed, and Batman has the opportunity to save her and doesn't save Lois. And that's what sets off Batman. That's why we get that nightmare scene of like Darkseid's got his arm, like his hand on him, kind of like he's under control from Darkseid, and like this dystopian future where like everybody's gone. We know that Aquaman's dead. We know that Wonder Woman's dead. And then in that future, apparently, Cyborg sets it up so that the Flash can run back through time. So he does something so he can run back there all the way to like warn Batman to say Lois is the key, that he has to save Lois. Batman sacrifices himself in this second chance so that Lois can live, and then and then Superman can save the world. But to your point, in that version, which I think would be like, I guess movie 3, is their son becomes the new Batman, and there's a new and there's like all and then they all start to come together again, where like the Atlanteans are led by what's his face, Aquaman. The Themyscians are led by Wonder Woman and stuff, and they all have like this kind of like big kind of like war, like really Lord of the Rings type battle where like multiple races come together. The humans are led by the new Batman, Superman, and Cyborg, and then big battle, and of course the good guys win, right? And Zack said all of that. I'm like, oh, I really want to see that.
We need it
a lot.
And this is when we'll need the fans again to, get together and get to apply pressure on DC to get it released. Get it done. Get it done. We want to see it.
Bring back the Snyderverse. And that's where the Joker's comment about maybe this time you'll be mad enough to sacrifice yourself or something like that. Makes sense. Like, but if you don't listen to that interview, that makes no sense. Like, so it's like, what? It's like, okay, the Joker's just rambling, like the lowest thing. I guess I forgot about that. But when you hear him, it's like, oh man, I hope we got to see it because it'd be so cool.
Nothing to do with everything you just said, but like visually though, the nightmare sequence looks bad. Like, so the Joker in the nightmare sequence looks absolutely amazing. The way it's filmed, actually, I had almost borderline had goosebumps when he says like, let there be peace, or let there be a truth between us, and he pulls out a card. And like the way it's filmed with the close up on his hand with the card, and there's like everything's blurring out. I was like, that's enough. You don't need me. Let's cut to black here. I don't need it to watch anything else. I'm done. It's too good.
It's good.
I just love the Joker, the way they brought him back and the way he looks there, which is a whole different level of craziness. And I think did you notice that he was wearing what's it called, a bulletproof jacket, and then there's a lot of police officers badges on it.
Badges. Yep.
Is that one for every single officer he's killed? Because otherwise that was super cool. Like he's got like a whole punch on them. I was like, ooh.
I'm fairly sure that came from a comic. I almost am 100% sure I've seen a visual like that of him like wearing all the badges of the policeman he's killed,
Yeah.
and yeah, dude, if that's where they pick it, that version of the Joker is super like it's brought back Jared Leto of like, nope, he didn't mess up the Joker. Like it really was like it really was the director of Suicide Squad. Because Jared Leto has the ability to play a Joker easily.
Of course he can, and that's funny you mentioned that, because I had so many the exact same argument with people I worked with. Is just like, especially like we went to with where colleagues went to see it in the cinema, and it's like as we went out, it was like, what the hell was that, And I was like, again, looking at watching it, I went, what, there's so much potential in that Joker, and I heard Jared Leto saying that in an interview, he said there's a lot more of him to make an entire film. Yeah. And apparently there's a bunch of rushes somewhere in the DC warehouses where they can actually do a nice film with it. But they use him for 30 seconds, and he looks absolutely terrible in those 30 seconds, like, because his character doesn't lead anywhere. Like, he's there, but he might as well not be there. And I was like, he's Leto's a great actor. Like, why are you not using him? Why are you not using, again, these are decisions from DC that I don't really understand. Like, why are you not using stuff that you have that could potentially be really great? You've got enough material to build upon, so why are you not doing that?
Yeah, and actually, that's a good example of why we shouldn't take what Zach has done lightly. In that scene in Suicide Squad with the Joker, I think, there's like one or two scenes at best, right? They have him like surrounded with like candles and stuff, and like there's this whole knives, knives, and they do like they blow out that shot and stuff. They do like they pull back and stuff, and it didn't work. Like that's not how you iconize that. Yeah, that's not how you iconize that character. It doesn't make sense. Like, the way you iconize that character is like the way that Zach did it right now, which is it's a close-up. It's a super close-up of just like, because his power is there's no superpower. It's all mental. It's all mental. Yeah, exactly.
It's about how threatening he is, but not with weapons. It's more like with what you think he's capable of doing. Yes, that's why I judged the Joker. Like what was it? What's his name? The actual Joker film that came out a couple of years ago. Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
Again, Joker. we don't know if it's the actual Joker, or if it's like the origin of the Joker, then it's taken over by somebody else who's actually batshit crazy. Well, he's crazy also, but in different ways. That I wasn't scared about what he was gonna do. Shooting a TV character live on TV. I'm like, okay, but just thinking about how the perverse things he's thinking about, that's scary enough to me. I don't need to see him with a gun or a knife. I'm already scared of him. And it's the same thing with the Leto Joker. It's just, when I came out of cinema, I'm actually scared of him, like, because he could do anything stupid anytime soon. We don't know what he's gonna do next. Yeah. And that's the same thing. And like you said, visually, you don't need to picture him with a gun. You don't need to see him with his over stylized thing, which is him on the floor with guns and knives around him and looking threatening. No, you just need having close-ups of him, his eyes, and the crazy smile, and the facial movements. That's all you need from him. That's all you need.
And the laugh.
Mess you up. And the laugh.
You need the laugh. Which at first I was like, huh? And I was like, oh wait, no, he's trying something different. And I'm kind of like, I'm there for it. But also another interesting part of that scene that I thought was super good was Batman saying he's going to kill him. Right. Mm-hmm. To be specific, I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Yes, please.
Because even as he's handing him the Joker card to like have the truce and stuff, because in that scene, this is what I like about it so much. It's like, it's so clear that he stands for absolute anarchy. Like, you cannot trust a single thing he's doing, despite the fact that they're thrown together in this like post-apocalyptic world, and they have to work together. So it's this like version 5 of the Suicide Squad, right? It's like it's another Suicide Squad you see assembling there. But what I like about Batman saying that is that while in this Snyderverse, all the superheroes kill people. It's not DC kind of like PG-13 washed. It is it's still, that is the person that Batman will always struggle to kill, right? And we get that from like the Killing Joke, right? The Alan Moore
Yes.
comic. We see why they are two sides of the same coin at the end of the day. But it takes the world falling apart for Batman to go, fuck it, I'm gonna kill you. It's like, because it's like the world fell apart. There's nothing left. It's like, yeah, then that you're up, dude. Like,
Yeah,
we're gonna
because
get through this, and then you're done.
the Batman's philosophy, the morals that he applies to himself, is just that they don't apply anymore, because that world is just falling apart. You know, it's gone. And yeah, there's multiple reasons why Batman never kills Joker, but then have him, you know, do him quickly.
It's one of my favorite bits of writing of that movie. Now, having said that, that would allow us to pivot into things we didn't love.
Right, here's my list. I've got my list. It's three things. I've got three things that actually there's two things that made roll my eyes super hard, and there's one thing that I was like, what's going on? I think let's start with the thing that jumped out to me, the 4:3 aspect ratio. So the black bars on each side.
Yeah.
Which when I launched, so I watched my I watched the Justice League on Sky Cinema. So it's an app on my laptop, on my computer that I'm using. So I was like, did they get like a screener version? So, you know, the screener, for people who don't work in the industry, is just like a low resolution. Sometimes it's not in the right aspect ratio. And it's just something you'll send to another company for review, or, you know, like if you're working in sales in a TV company, you send a screener to another broadcaster, and they'll look at it and say, I'm interested in that program, you send me a screener of, you know, let's buy it. And then you get anyway. I was like, did they put the wrong thing on Sky Cinema? Are they broadcasting the wrong thing? I actually went online. I had to pause it. I went online. I went, why is it 4:3? And then it says, well, actually, it's a style decision from Snyder. He's filmed the movie in IMAX format, so IMAX is not completely 16:9, and it's 4:3, and it's made to be released in an IMAX cinema. So it looks absolutely amazing on the big IMAX that you have anywhere around the world. But I'm like, you forgot one thing. Be in the middle of a pandemic. Correct. There's no IMAX available unless you live somewhere like where they don't care, like was it Florida, or you know, everything's open.
Texas, Florida, Mississippi, Texas, you name it. Sorry, fans there. Yeah.
It's not true.
Let's move on.
And I'm like, okay, fine. I mean, I agree. Yeah, cool, make an IMAX, but like, couldn't you do a version where rework the aspect ratio for 16:9 for everyone else, especially, you know, you're going to release it on what is it, HBO Max? HBO Max, is it a TV channel, or is it online?
It's streaming service.
It's a streaming service. So okay, you'll watch it on your TV and you watch it on your computers, or mobile devices. So you'll be a screen like that. So 4:3, you just lose a bunch of room estate.
Yes.
Which would be amazingly appreciated if you could see that. Like the more details you can get in those sort of movie, the better. Especially with the style of filming that or the visual style that Snyder uses, slow motion stuff. You want to see more. I want to see more on my screen, not 4:3. Like, you kill literally a lot of screening room that you've got there, and why would you do that to your stuff? I thought it didn't make that much sense. It made sense in a world when there's no COVID-19, yeah, sure. When you go to see in the cinema, yeah, sure. But now, and it can be done, you know, reformatting, reorganizing the aspect ratio. That's there's people that specialize in that. So it's not something that it was too hard to do. So that was my first thing. That was the first thing I didn't like. I was like, you know, do I need to quit the application and start again and see if it works? But no, it's just there.
I will say the way you just heard now made me take back a comment I made earlier, which is I would rewatch this at the IMAX. That's the only way I'm rewatching this, like at the IMAX, because and I would highly recommend, like, do a rewatch once you guys get it on like the regular Sky stuff you can like just have on your big TV, because that's the one thing I kept thinking, going like, man, if you're watching this on a laptop or on a phone, it sucks.
Oh, on the phone,
like it sucks because it's like it cuts out so much, but also like, but when he lands that visual, in that format on a bigger TV, it's like,
Oof.
even on a TV, like on a decent sized TV, it looked stellar. I can only imagine when it's like IMAX, like the score, everything. Oh,
Yeah.
I'll say it. That's one of my things I do love. I like the score in this movie way better than the previous movie, like way better. Except for a couple of needle drops, the score is much better in this movie.
I'll agree with you. And actually, the score is great, and that's my number 2 on my list. There's some music choices in there, some songs. I was like, "What the hell are you thinking about?"
Wait.
Yeah.
Let's see if I guess it.
Yeah.
Damn Aquaman! The Aquaman scene. Oh my god. Oh my god.
There's two. Okay. So the first one is the Aquaman one, which I was like, why? I see this big ass man. I want rock music. I want something that rocks. Like, look where he's necking bottles of whiskey.
Yeah.
The entire film is like bang, shot. I'm like, let me put the slowest, softest song I can find right now. I'm just gonna put that right there, and that goes well with Aquaman. No, that didn't work. I'm glad I'm not the only one.
it fell so hard at his face, and it could have been so good,
epic,
so good, and it landed on his face in every way. Because the scene was still amazing, but
it's like it's almost as if he went into his Snyder went back to online. He went, let me find the slowest thing I could find. Like, what's the saddest song I could put in right now? And I know what they want to try and do, right? They were trying to give it this moody, of kind of over dramatic sense to it.
Well, yes and no. Actually, what it's trying to convey, it's about the lyrics. If you listen to it. It's about like our gods were meant to like outlive us and they didn't, or something like that. It's like and I'm like, okay, so you're doing a lot of work to iconize these characters as gods. It's like, I don't need the song to tell me that too. Like, I got it, dude. That. Like that's exactly overkill. That. Yeah.
So it's two things. It's what you just said, and then the other thing was that it felt like it didn't stick with the character himself. Like when I see that version of Aquaman, I can see him in one of those bars, like bikers bars. Just fighting, like, and having stupid conversations. Like I'm not saying the character himself is stupid. I'm just saying that that's the way he's portrayed, like massive tattoos, big muscle and stuff, and badass attitude. I wasn't expecting that. There was too much of a contrast between the two. It took me out of the film a little bit at that moment, and that's when you mess up, that when you go whoa, but not in a good way. You can be taken out of the film, like you're like, oh my god, this is so beautiful or well done. You're like, I'm floating right now. It's amazing. But no, that was like, no, please.
Just like a big orchestral guitar band, just leading into it. Badass. Just like, just a badass. Like, I don't know. Anyways, yeah. So what's the other one?
that actually ties in very well with my third moment, which was the biggest eye roll I had in the entire film, to the point where my eyes got stuck in the back of my head. And that was the Flash slow motion scene. So remember when he goes for that job interview, and it's like suddenly that girl that is eyeing, actually awesome scene. I was like, yes, you see, I want to see him. I mean, human connections with others, great. And the girl is absolutely beautiful. I was like, yes, they can make a cute couple.
And she will show up in the Flash movie. That's confirmed.
Yes, she looks familiar though. I can't remember what her name was, but I've seen her in another film. I was like,
I've been meaning to look her up. Yeah, I know.
Anyway, regardless, that's not the point. So she start driving off, and then a big truck coming the other way, and they crash. So obviously the Flash sees that, and he goes dashes outside, and then music comes on and everything goes slow motion, and then it's like she's clearly having a car crash. You can see she's about to freaking die. Like she's like, and then he's just like, ding, let me cross her arms and brush her. I'm like, freaking just save her life. Don't fuck around right now. She's about to crash in the truck that is right behind you. Go. Like, I understand the whole thing is to say, oh, look at him, he's even in the face of death or whatever, he's romantic, he's different, and fine, I get it. And then the music came on, I was like, okay, I get it. And I get it. You're trying to set up the character as this cool guy, and he can be in love, and he's like, man, I didn't need that slow motion with that music right there. Like, you can give me that slow motion, that's fine, of him saving her, but like the whole thing of like trying to make it romantic. I think that's what it is. It's trying to make it a romantic moment out of the entire situation. I was just too weird for me. I was like, nah.
The setup they have for that character, it doesn't make sense for what he wants is a girlfriend. He wants to get his dad out of jail, right? He wants to become a criminal justice person to get his dad out of jail, which is what the Flash always has been in the comics. He's in criminal justice, and that felt like it was a setup for the Flash movie, but it had no reason being in this movie. Like, I don't know. You could have kept that. You could have kept that moment for the Flash movie, because clearly, like, you can make that movie more lighthearted because the character is more lighthearted the way that Ezra Miller's portraying him, and it did not need to be here. So I 100% agree that didn't make any sense.
It just yeah, I was like, wow, I don't need this right now. And which leads me to my half a point, which is the duration of the film. So 4 hours. I know why it's 4 hours. It's a good thing that it's 4 hours because you needed to reintroduce all the characters.
Yep.
But it could have been shaved off to 3 hours and 15, maybe 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 15 minutes, I'd say, because of all the slow motions in the first 2 hours. There's so many slow mos in the first 2 hours.
Yes.
I was like, you overdid it there. You didn't need that much. Do you not agree?
I think the slow motion could definitely be reduced, but I wouldn't take out that much of it. If I'm honest, I would take some for sure. I would definitely take. There's some slow motion scenes that make like
okay,
just like
slow motion plus a bunch of scenes like you said that didn't need to be there. There's a bunch of scenes I think in the first 2 hours. I'm like, I don't think they need to be there.
Correct. There's a lot of Lois grieving very slowly. Yes. I think that's the slow-mo that annoys me. It's like the slow-mo in action scenes, I wouldn't cut a single one, if I'm honest.
Sure. Okay.
But the slow-mo in non-action scenes did get to me. I'm like, okay, we can speed this up. And like
we get it. That's like, yeah.
Lois is grieving, sure, but we get a lot of her grieving, and I'm like, and it's not in tune with the character we met in Man of Steel, where she was super driven. Even when she was falling in love with Superman, she was so like, I'm a reporter. I'm going to go do this. And I'm like, so now that she's grieving for Superman, why does she lose the being a reporter thing? Right? It's like,
that I didn't get. I understand that you're grieving, but like the thing is, okay, you can think about, okay, well, some people, like, they're grieving, they throw everything at something else to think about something else and go past it, right?
Correct.
You know, like I'm gonna concentrate on my job now. I'm a reporter.
Yeah,
don't talk to me about anything else. But she goes the other way, and I was like, and exactly that doesn't stick with her character, which is super driven, super professional. Like I would assume she would have gone 24 hours a day. I'm just in the office, is just freaking rolling out stories nonstop.
Exactly.
It's a bit odd. And to your point, though, what you said about the slow motions on non-action scenes, there's a lot of scenes, normal scenes, that you feel it's almost like they shot this scene and they had to put the entire thing without cutting, like doing top and tail, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's like the shot starts here, character comes in now, the character does something, and then it's like the character leaves the screen, the camera still moves, and it's like, and there's a lot of that in the first 2 hours when it's like, you know, you're allowed to cut just before into like to get a bit of more of a better rhythm to your story.
Yeah.
And I felt that's a bit weird. It's like, well, look, the camera is now panning up, and it's actually tilting, it's doing something. I'm like, you don't need to put that in the film. Like, you could shave off 10 seconds there and another 5 there. And that felt weird.
Yes.
So again, that's what I'm saying. You can easily find a good half an hour to shave off.
Oh, yeah, if not more. Yeah,
if not more. And I'm being conservative. I'm being super.
Yeah. Half an hour, it could be shaved off and still be useful by a couple of newbies like you and me. We could probably shave off half an hour easily. Like, someone that knows what they're doing can get this down to 3.
Oh yeah. No, I think. But you know what? It's cool to have it done in 4 hours. I think because it sets it apart from other superhero movies. It's like, well, you will remember that it was 4 hours long, you know. It's the one thing you'd be famous for. It's like,
so
I can do
so that's a good way of like starting to talk about the film stuff that I didn't like with the writing, because I will caveat everything I'm saying that I am not trying to shit on this movie, because I genuinely liked it, but I don't think we should be comparing this movie to other movies. The first thing I thought was like comparing it to Endgame. I'm like, no,
No.
no. That would be a huge mistake because Endgame was a payoff to like years worth of storytelling.
It's 10 years of stories.
Yeah, which this did not have 10 years of storytelling. So it's unfair to compare it. But also, I don't want to compare it to a movie because I don't. It's just a weird thing to say, but I don't think this is a movie. In that it doesn't. It tries to follow the 3-act structure. It's like heroes meet, heroes find problem, heroes resolve problem. So it more or less meets that 3-act structure. But the way it's shot and the way it's written, it's not a 3-act structure. It's like it feels like this could have been like the first, I don't know, like half season of like a 2-season arc, right? Of a 2-season movie, right? This is like the first arc, right? So actually, that's a great point. It's like it's more like anime in that we talked about in the anime episode, and that anime doesn't follow the classic like three sections of a movie we normally get. Anime has these huge long arcs that are very indulgent, very stop and slow down and think about what the characters are thinking about and all that sort of stuff, to then have like a little bit of fluff in between and then set up another big arc, right? This is kind of how I felt. Like this feels just like one big arc, and then I'm just looking forward to the next arc kicking off because this wasn't enough. Like this didn't satisfy all of my curiosity about these characters, and I'm okay with that because I know more is coming. When I know that more isn't coming, that's where I get the letdown from this. So
that's what we said before, is that it needs to have a follow-up in that it opens this kind of worm that you could have a lot more stuff coming out of this film, you know.
If they want to let Zach do this in anime, I'd be so there for it. I want two seasons of this easy. Like I'd so be there. So coming back to then, this is where I find trouble with the writing, right? So a lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense, right? But let's start with like the stuff that I thought was a bit of a they try to have the moments of banter that you get in between the big fight scenes, which Marvel is just like chef's kiss, A+ on the moments of banter. Like when they're all sitting around trying to pick up the hammer, it's just one of the best scenes that Marvel has ever done, right? Is that this, and that's Joss Whedon, right? And here they try to have those little moments of banter and they fall so flat. Like the one where they're like digging up Superman's grave, cut that scene entirely. Like it add nothing. Even when the Flash goes like, I could do this under 1 nanosecond. So I'm like, so why didn't you, bro? Because we're just sitting here watching you going like, why are you doing this?
Actually, I'm just gonna sidestep a little bit there, because one funny thing, I watched this YouTube video. I keep saying that every week, but this guy who did an analysis of the Whedon cut and all the stuff that was like, it make no sense. That made no sense. Every single point that was raised from that video. So, for example, the scene you just mentioned about them digging up the body, and the guy went, "Okay, so you realize it's being digged up by the Flash and Cyborg. They could have done that in nanoseconds. Literally, the Flash could have run around, dig a hole, done." And every single point that was raised by this guy on YouTube, they in the script pointed it out. It was so funny because I caught myself watching the film, and then suddenly it was like, there's another scene like that where I can't remember which one it is, but it'll surely come back to me. But let's go back to the Superman one, the body getting digged out. And it's like, and the guy was like, when he said, "Oh, we could have done that in 2 seconds." I was like, did Zack Snyder watch the YouTube video that came out last week and just added that in before releasing the film? Like, did he go back and shot that thing quickly? Just go ahead. Look, we know.
It makes no sense. Yeah, no, I agree, dude. It's unnecessary. So let me then go back to like the big, because that's one of the big things. I'm like, just stuff that I'm like, this doesn't feel like right with the characters, right? So there's a lot of like little things like with the banter that just didn't make sense, right? But on the flip side of that, there is the small moments I thought weren't good. But I wasn't there for those small moments. I thought the big moments in terms of what the characters wanted, right? So one of the things you always like apply in screenwriting is like, you got to understand what your character wants, what's driving them to do something. Because if not, they're just a person rambling through a world.
Sure. Yeah.
And I thought that a lot of characters did not get a want necessarily. Like, there's nothing really that Diana wants in this movie outside of that last moment we get with her looking at the arrow and looking into the sunset of just like she wants to get back to Themyscira. That was like but overall, like Diana's just showing up. But I was okay with that one because we got so much of her already, right? We've seen a lot of Diana. We're close to that character. So the fact that she's not written all that much into this movie, I'm like, it sucks because she's a strong female lead that is just so baller in her origin story movie. And the things she does are amazing and iconic. And one of my favorite things in the movie is her headbutting Superman.
Oh yes, Superman. And then he heads back, and I'm like, oh my god, they don't move.
So there for that, like so there for that.
But you know what? Actually, funny enough, because that's also not my favorite scene in the entire thing. Yeah. But she also has one of the scenes I think has nothing to do in there that makes no sense at all. Yeah. Which is the introduction scene for her, which is in London.
Correct.
Where the guys are coming in to bomb this building that nobody knows what the building is about. We don't know what it is. It's well, who cares anyway? And then the justification for them bombing the building is like, oh, we return to the Dark Ages. What, like bombing a building is going to bring back Europe into the Dark Ages? Like, how is that connecting with anything else? And then side note again on top of that, when she gets, she lassoed one of the guy to find out who they are and what they want. The guy goes, oh, we're going to pulverize 4 blocks in a perfect British accent saying 4 blocks. That's not UK English. No,
I know.
Uses blocks. The notion of blocks is US only. And I'm like, and again, talking about scenes that take you out. And I completely forgot about that. And then he goes, oh, we're going to blow up 4 blocks. I'm like, no, you're not going to take 4 blocks, sir. You're going to blow up the whole neighborhood. Yeah, the whole place. Yeah, the ends in it. But why are you talking about blocks? No, don't do it. But anyway, I digress. The scene, I was like, I'm still on the way it does in that film, why it's there.
And the little girl tell her, like, I want to grow up to be just like you. Like, super sweet and nice, but made no sense in the movie.
So it makes no sense. And also it felt pushed. There was that thing. Yes. Like, I agree with the entire thing of, like you said, strong women superhero that are there to inspire.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be literally said on screen. Like, you don't need to a strong message. Like, you can pass that message very easily without being overtly obvious about it. It's like imagine in Black Panther, and it's Black Panther saves someone. It's like, I want to be a black hero just like you. I was like, yeah. You don't need to say it.
You don't need to say
it. It's inspiring to black people to have a black superhero. It's the same thing there. It's like, why do you have to point that out? Like, look, she's a girl. Yeah. She's cool. I'm like,
it was kind of like the Captain Marvel, like, I'm just a girl needle drop in that movie.
Yes.
I'm like, oh, we did not need that, people. It's like, let's be obvious on top of obvious and really make it a point. It's like, this is a woman kicking butt. I'm like, no, we get that from the scene.
Got it.
If you wrote the character better, we'd even write it. If you got a woman to write her, it'd be even better, right? So it's like that scene. I'm like, it's just a dude writing for a woman. But that's what fucked up that scene at the end of the day.
I really want to have more dates.
It's like a little girl is traumatized by nearly being shot. She then sees Wonder Woman kill people, and then she goes, "I want to be like you." I'm like, that does not track at all.
You don't need to say out loud.
Yeah,
you don't
exactly.
Need to say it out loud.
Yeah, anyway. and she'd just be happy to be alive at that point, for heaven's sake.
I'm like, first reaction would be like, "Where's my mom? I need to call my parents to see what happened."
So no arc for her, unfortunately.
No.
Aquaman is stiff. Like, it's not the Aquaman we saw in the Aquaman movies. He's super stiff in this movie. He's just moody the whole time. Yes. We don't see, there's no reason why he has to be there outside of, like, he was summoned by Batman. There's nothing in it for him. He's still not the Aquaman that we know because he hasn't, like, claimed his throne. Just like stuff like Willem Dafoe showing up and, like, talking him into stuff adds nothing. Mira, I have no idea why Mira's in this movie. Mira shouldn't be in this movie at all, and she has a different accent, which has been pointed out repeatedly online, which is weird. So the Aquaman thing is like, dude, but Aquaman looks super cool in most scenes he's in, and he does like pretty cool stuff. But and I will say, this made my metal list. Aquaman surfing on a parademon.
Oh yes,
there for that any day of the week. Give me more of that, because that is his character. That was perfectly in tune with his character. That's what we should see. Yeah, and that's where I would have loved like an awesome theme song when he's doing that. Just like a little, like set up the theme song when he's staring out into the ocean, and then bring it back when he's riding a parademon. I'm like, dude, that was there.
Yes.
Like, just pick low.
You know what could have been even better? Like him playing electric guitar was fighting it. Like,
so
badass
good.
riff.
But the surfing is like, I that's the writing I'm there for. I'm like, that made it fun, man. That was super cool.
Exactly.
Yeah, it made it super fun. Because that whole sequence, like, I could follow the action. It wasn't too fast. Like sometimes with Marvel, they have these really cool scenes that are just cut too quickly, and I don't know what's happening. And there, I knew exactly how he got from like falling to a parademon, like surfing a parademon. I'm like, amazing bit of like action writing. So Cyborg does have an arc.
Let's talk about him.
Yeah, he has an arc. He wants something, right? At first it's like he won't come out of his room. He's stuck. He's like he can't come to terms with the monster that he has become. He doesn't have a relationship with his dad. We can clearly see why the relationship was strained. The parts with his mom, okay, like I'll take it. Maybe could have done without a feeling, because there's no redemptive arc with the mom. The mom's just there, and the mom actually doesn't like cause him to do anything. Like she's just there, as like the contrast to his dad.
Exactly.
That's the only thing.
The mom's the other side of the other side of the coin. You know, she's just there because she's just a mom. She's just a mom role. There's nothing there that's out of the ordinary, right? Which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but then we do get the dad showing up in kind of a cool way for his son. Make the sacrifice he makes is anticlimactic, is the only thing that I had a little bit of a problem with.
That was weird, wasn't it? That scene.
Yeah, like I wish I would have known what he was looking up to go like, oh no, he's gonna sacrifice himself just so he can track the box. I wish I could have been shown that and not told that, because they told me what he did, where I'm like, if you had to tell me, then you missed a trick in how you shot it. So that was shot a little bit janky, like his like sacrificial moment, which actually was super meaningful. It just shot in the wrong way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And but then seeing Cyborg come out of his shell, even though he never smiles, or when he meets his like alternate self in that dream sequence, and the alternate version of him is smiling, I'm like, oh, that he's in Get Out. Like they took over his brain. It's like look, he like he's gonna immediately scream "Get out" at any minute now. I'm like, because he looks weird when he smiles.
He looks creepy. No, he looks creepy in the alternate universe. It was like, ooh.
Big time. But then they set up for him to have that arc of him. And I know that some people are probably going to shit on this. And like he separates the boxes by separating his family and all that sort of stuff. It's like no, like the metaphor is I think falls a little bit. But I didn't mind it. Like I thought it was still a decent writing. I thought it was fine, because it was consistent with his character in a movie where consistency in characters was not there. Nope. It had consistency for him, and so I was like, no, that's fine. I'm cool with it.
So when that scene happened, it didn't jump out to me as like something that was out. Like the dad's death, the sacrifice, that was a bit odd. Like you said, I looked at him and was like, huh, he's gone already. But that scene when he separates the family just to separate the boxes, I'm like, that's fine. That's absolutely nothing wrong with that. The one thing though, before we continue, is I was very happy that they took the time to introduce Cyborg. The one thing I had with the Josh cut was, like when I watched it, I was like, I don't care about Cyborg. Like, might as well not have been there. Like he was needed to separate the boxes at the end. I don't care about him. But then in this one, in that cut, I was like, wow. I actually, by the end of it, I was like, wow, this guy, I can watch more of him now. I know who he is. I know what he stands for. I know where he came from. I know what he wants to do. And when I saw him in the nightmare sequence, I was like, yeah, he doesn't stand out. Like I could see him there. If that movie is as a follow up, I'm more than happy to have him in there and save the day one more time. And like they took the time to explain what he does, what his powers are. Going online and set off nuclear bombs. Just with a thought, I was like, whoa! That guy is actually powerful in many ways, and that's not explained at all in the Whedon cut. Like you see him going with the boxes and like separating them. I'm like, where does that come from? We never got told that he had the powers to do that, or why should it be him? In the Snyder cut, it's very well laid out. Like he's the guy. He can fuse with the boxes. He can make sure that they don't synchronize or unite. And that was that made it made sense as much as a movie about the guy dressing up as a bat makes sense. But, it's in the entire thing, it makes sense that it will be him that has the ability to do that. And Superman.
Yes, and I really like the fact that it's a story about a human becoming a god. And how hard that is on you, because in a movie filled with gods of like old, right? So Themyscira, Atlantis, it's like all these are like old gods that we're like, all right, they know who they are because they have a legacy of people around them to show them who they are. Right. And we see with Superman, an alien god, like how he comes to terms with who he is by meeting Zod. So he knows who he is. But Cyborg, that's why he's holed up in his room, right? Because he doesn't know what he is, because he has no one to show him the way. So it's like a way of, but then we realize that he can stand next to all these gods of old, because of course, a new god would be a god based on technology. And he can literally control anything in this world. So I'm like, like I thought that was really clever writing for Super Cyborg. Like it made that character really interesting.
There's one scene that made me laugh though with Cyborg. I was like, do you remember that scene when he starts to understand his powers and he can manipulate finances and the financial world? And that when we see the story of that woman that's got no cash and the kid and blah, blah, and she gets evicted, and then she goes and check the cash point and it's like 100,000. I'm like, you come on, give her like at least 10 or 100 mil. Like, don't be 100,000. You can barely do anything with it. Like, again, like in today's world, 100K is like, you can do, you can get rid of your debts and you can do a bunch of stuff. But like in the grand scheme of things, she's not gonna go that far with that. She's got a kid to feed. Like kids are expensive. Like 100K gone, especially in Metropolis or New York or wherever it's supposed to be. And it's like, come on, like don't be like nobody. You could cover your tracks easy if you got literally your fingers into all of the pies. Like give her 100 mil. Like make sure she lives large. 100K. What was that?
Or just give her like a recurring payment of just like, oh, you're gonna get like indefinite payments of like 50,000 a month or something. It's like, exactly. Oh yeah, I'd be cool with that. Like that makes sense. No, that is funny actually.
$500,000 1 year, and then you're done. That's cool. But I was 100K. Like, you can't you can do it, but don't take the piss too much. Just.
So, which leads me to like the next two characters to talk about, which is like Flash and Batman. I think Flash is written well, but with no purpose, unfortunately. I don't think that he has why would he join this team outside of like he's
got no friends.
One thing I will say is that him being recruited by Batman makes total sense, because he would be the one person to be a total fanboy for Batman.
Yeah,
right.
But which he is in that scene. That scene when you up, it's like, oh, you're Batman.
It felt like a Peter Parker, Tony Stark moment in some ways, where I was just like, oh, he's so excited to like know that he's Batman, and so that made sense in terms of like why Batman recruited him. But still, it's like why he has any skin in this game is like,
well, he still had to save the world, right? But
Aquaman had the mother box stolen from the Atlanteans. Sure. So did Wonder Woman. Cyborg was created by a mother box. Batman killed Superman, and now he feels really shitty about it. So why would Flash want to be in this, right?
I think
outside
Flash
of his ability.
Flash is what you said. Is like he's literally has no friends. I think he's doing his in the hope that he can belong somewhere. I think that's correct. That's where he's coming. That's his angle, right?
Yeah. And that's where the scene that you talked about with him seeing his like future wife, the hot dog scene, for lack of a better word, that could be a scene of him being lonely. That could be a scene of the Flash slowing down and just sitting and just contemplating like how lonely he is, because his whole life is about just like, you could have had the speech with the dad about the dad going like, dude, go live your life. And he's like, I have no life to live. Right. And he could have just gone back to like the empty apartment and just got, I have no life to live outside of like fighting for my dad. And then I'm like, I'm there for it. Like I am there for it, but just set it up just a little bit better.
Yeah, that's
the problem I have with the writing. Yeah.
On the plus side for me though, the Flash, the Whedon Flash, let's call him that way, completely uninteresting.
Correct.
Like I was like, again, like Cyborg. I was like, I don't actually. The opposite. I was like, I don't want you to be in there. You're actually annoying. The Whedon Flash is to me straight up annoying.
Yeah.
But by the end of this one, I was like, oh, he's so cool. He's actually cool. Like the power he's got of turning back time. Like when he's bringing back Cyborg, I was like, that's banging. And then you see him in again the nightmare scene at the end, like him slightly older, the growing beard. I'm like, oh my god, that looks cool. That looks really cool. But then, Flash number 1 was bad. Flash number 2, much improved. Apart from that scene, the car crash scene, the hot dog scene. I'm like, but I see where you're coming from with this. Like, what's his connection to all of this? What's in it for him? But
now his character writing, like that's like kind of the plot development, right? Like his actual dialogue writing is super good. Like he's funny. He's the only person that's legitimately funny in the whole movie, outside of like one line that Batman drops that is just classic. He's like,
which one?
What's your superpower? I'm rich.
Oh yeah. Oh, which actually that scene pissed me off because that's such an advert for Mercedes. It's like, hey, have you seen my Merc?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, product placement, people, can we chill on that? Because I don't mind if it's subtle. Like in the Avengers is the Audi car that comes in and you see like a nice little shot. But then this one was like, look, here's a Merc, here's a Merc, here's a Merc, here's a Merc. Gets in the car. I'm rich. Look at the start, like this shot of the steering wheel with the iPad thing in the back, like the car starting, and then there's that shot of the car driving off. I'm like, all right, we got it, we got you. It's sponsored by Merc.
They had to figure out how to cover some of that 70 million, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, how can we make sure we get our money back?
It's like Mercedes, Under Armour. Can you help us out, please?
Yeah,
because the Under Armour placement was just like, I cringe hard because this is my thing. I don't mind product placement. Like, don't worry, I understand they need to finance these things, and there's a time and time, but you don't do product placement in the last half hour of the movie. Like, you just don't. It's like in the beginning of the movie, go nuts, man. Show me like tag watches, all that sort of stuff. Like, I'm good with all that stuff. But at the end of the movie, don't clearly focus in on the Under Armour logo at the end of the flipping movie. It's like product placement.
Imagine Endgame with freaking Nike shoes at the end of like in the middle of the battle.
It's like, funny enough, it's like into Spider-Verse, still the best hero movie ever done in the history of hero movies, does product placement perfectly. And I know I'm biased because of my Nike connection, but it brings out the AJ ones in the beginning of the movie. You notice them a lot, but they don't become the central thing you're focusing on at the end of the movie. It's like it's the time where he's being playful, he's going to school and all that sort of stuff. It's like totally makes sense for him to have his AJs on. Like, that's cool.
It's done solely also. It's done solely also in Far From Home. If you remember, Peter Parker in Venice, walking around Venice, and he's wearing the Air Force One, I think.
Yep.
Gray on gray, whatever. I know it because I was looking them up online to get the pair. They look badass, but it's done in a way that it's like you notice the shoes, and the shoes there's like a very brief shot of them.
Yeah, exactly.
When he gets attacked, but and when it's overtly obvious like that, just like
they framed the scene around it, which I found super annoying. But having said that, going back to the Flash, he's written really nicely. I want to see more of him. I'm now super excited about the Flash movie. I think Ezra Miller is like acting super well. So the coolness, the fact that it's like the way the what is it, the Speed Force is filmed, I think is super cool. And I love that a lot of his payoffs aren't like, or actually none of his payoffs are a big punch. Like all his payoffs are like, and I will then pass my energy to you. And it's always like that moment of just
Subtle,
like
yeah.
that. It's subtle. It's just like boom, and here you go.
Yeah.
This is what you needed to make the whole thing kind of take off. And I'm like, I think that's actually really nice because he's not built like, he's not like Henry Cavill. I can't put my arms down big, right? It's like
Yeah.
he's just a normal dude. So of course that's what he do. He's not punchy, and I think that's cool. Like it's
It's
not
funny
just punching stuff.
you mentioned that because one of my favorite scenes of the entire thing is when he's running all the way back to the alien ship just to create the electricity to touch the cube. And I love the whole thing between Aquaman and the whole discussion between Aquaman and Batman. Batman's like, yeah, it's correct, we need to do it, and then Aquaman's like, no, we should stop. You know, the ship saying, oh no, this is no, you're not allowed to do this. And then you've got the Flash running, and he's like speeding up, and he's like, ding. I thought visually it's all amazing, and like that was a really good scene. Everything about it was really good, really well done. So again, well done, Zach.
Yeah, visually looked awesome. And then Batman, right? So this is the last one we're talking about in terms of the character. Actually, no, there's one more after Batman, but Batman. So Batman, I think, does have an arc, but that is set up by virtue of the previous movies. Like if you haven't watched the previous movies, the Batman arc makes no sense here. But Batman is spending the whole movie just trying to. I was about to say, oh, there you go. I was like, what the hell is that? All right. So Batman spends most of the movie trying to make amends for effectively killing Superman, even though he didn't kill him. A lot of his decisions kind of led to it in some ways. So I like that he has recognized what have I done, and he's humble enough to try to make amends for it. Right? He's like, no. Even to a point, like a lot of the scenes, he very much sets up like a possible sacrifice of just like, don't worry about me. Don't worry about it. You just go. You guys go do that. I will do what I need to do, and I like that he shows up. I think that visually, in the way that Ben Affleck plays him, actually, and I will say, like, Ben Affleck does, I do like him as a Batman now quite a bit, because he plays him in a way that's very different to Batman v Superman, and for good reasons. In Batman v Superman, it's like it's a person gearing up to battle a god, and like what would be, you'd have to be so overly confident in yourself to do that, right? And that comes across. Whereas this Batman is a bit more frail, I find, because he's realized I made a huge mistake.
Yes,
and
he's worn out in that one.
Yeah, it's so while he's not weak in this movie at all, I think that he is just a little more subdued because of what happened. You can see how it's the grieving of Superman has stayed with him, right? And I'm like, I'm there for that. Like, I think it's just another version of Batman that we get, and it's cool, and he's still like the mastermind, and he still does a lot of really cool stuff, and the gadgets are awesome, and oh, it's our goodness, and he plays next to gods in the complementary way, where he's not trying to be a god himself.
No, I think you know what he's trying to do is he's in the role of a project manager that messed up something, and he's trying to right his wrongs. Like, I messed up the last project, so I'm gonna my bosses are watching, so I'm gonna run that one like a like a Swiss train. It's I think it's quite cool. It's like, well, I'm gonna get him. It's not working out. Well, I'm getting him anyway, and it's like, he's trying to get everyone on the same page and interested and make sure that they actually save the world.
Yeah,
and it's good. And again, I love that version of the Batman because that's the jaded Batman. It's the one that has nothing to lose. It's the one that's seen a lot of stuff. He's lost a lot of people, and he's got nothing to lose, but he's got less of a strong moral blockage. I was going to call it like that. I'm going to land a punch just to stun someone, whereas this one is, I'm going to kill you. It's like, get out of my face, get out of my way. I just need to get from A to B, and if you're in my way, you'll die. It's a lot more brutal. The Batman in Batman Superman is a powerful force, like it's brute. Straight up powerful, because you like you said, the training session and everything he's got to do to get to that god level. And that's what he does at the end of it. This one, I think, is like, well, I messed up. What do I do? And again, you can also sort of draw a parallel with Endgame on that, because you see a lot of characters that are tired, that are mentally and physically tired. Like you look. Sorry, Batman. Thanos in Endgame. You see him in the first, the opening Thanos, as I call him, for the first 15 minutes. He's like super tired, and you see he's paid the consequences of his actions. Where he's like, his arm is messed up, and he looks dead before dying, literally. It's the same with Batman there. It's just like he's almost checked out mentally. It's like, well, I need to do this to save planet Earth, but as a superhero myself that is looking after an entire town and making sure that good takes, is the driving force in the region. Like, I'm gonna do this, and then if I can check out, I'll check out, but which he doesn't. But there's that vibe to him of nothing to lose, and I've got to make myself forgiven, which he does. Funny enough, as Bruce Wayne, when at the end of it he buys the farm back. It's like, and I love that scene. Actually, he was talking about little sentences and little thing that fall flat. That one actually made me laugh, because it was the, well, I'm rich but executed better, which oh, how did you convince the bank? I bought the bank. I was like, yes, please. And it was very Tony Stark. Do you remember in what movie does he fight the Hulk? What is it again? Is that Civil War? Like, he's got a big suit of armor.
Oh yeah. Is that Ultron?
Or is it Ultron, or is it in Civil War? I can't remember.
It could be Civil War. I don't remember.
And it's like they're fighting in the middle of the city, and it's like suddenly he sees that massive building under construction. He's like, how fast can we buy this building before they crash into it? And it's like there's the same thing there. It's like that's when you understand how filthy rich they are. It's like it's a different reality for them. But I thought that one landed well. That little joke there. I thought it was
and Batfleck cracked it well. Because he cracked it in theme with I agree. That's one of the moments of banter that I was like, okay, that was actually nice. Like, between him and Superman, because they were just talking as just like two people just like hanging out, and then he congratulates him for the wedding or the baby.
The baby.
The baby. And then so let me go to, because this I do need to touch on the character that I absolutely hate so much how they wrote is Steppenwolf. Oh my god.
Oh, okay.
Steppenwolf, so bad. So bad.
See, visually he's better than the Whedon version, though, because in Josh Whedon, like the Steppenwolf, I was like, what the hell is this?
100% better. Yes.
So they've corrected that, but I agree with you that in terms of the character and the way he's written, I'm just like, because you know what, he was weak at the end of the day.
Yeah, he was such a So this is exactly what made me think of Guardians of the Galaxy, one of the best Marvel movies with one of the worst villains. The villain in the first exactly. So this is why no one knows his name, because he sucks as a villain. He's not memorable. He's the guy with the big hammer that looks like Vin Diesel.
Damn it. Damn it.
Yeah, for a while I was convinced he was Vin Diesel when I first started watching that movie.
Yeah, I know.
So the things that those characters have in common is, one, just like the visual design of those characters is both bad. Because you don't get to see their facial expressions. Well, the way they made Steppenwolf better in terms of his armor and all that sort of stuff, it got better, but it's still not great how they did his face, because you have no emotional. He does not seem threatening at all. He looks confused most of the time, and when they did that close up, he looks like a chipmunk. It's like, I was like, wait, that's Alvin in a suit. I was like, that's super weird. And the thing is that he's middle management.
And this is where my point was saying he's super weak, because he's acting as this middleman for Darkseid.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, cool.
Which was,
but it makes sense. I'm not mad at that specific point, right? What is that the whole story around him of like, he needs to make himself forgiven because he messed up before. Okay, fine. But there's like little things of the way he was behaving towards him, and every time he was in contact with what's his face? Not Darkseid, Elsa? No, I can't remember. There's like the guy who's like the right-hand man, Darkseid's right-hand man.
Desaad.
Yeah. So, and I was like, okay, cool. But like, he looks scared of them. Do you remember? For example, this is where I know we shouldn't draw comparison between DC and Marvel again, but naturally we all do.
Yeah.
If you remember in not in Endgame, so in Infinity War, when the Thanos' army, what was it called? What are they called again? The Black.
You know, anyway, I know what I'm talking about. The Black Order.
The Black Order, that's the one.
Yeah.
When the Black Order showed up, I was actually legit scared of him. And then they're not scared of Thanos. They are respectful and they're like, they know what he can do.
Yes.
So you don't want to mess with him. In that one, it's like Steppenwolf he's scared of Darkseid. Yeah, okay, because he looks like a very powerful enemy. But it's like, I don't know, there was something off with the way he was talking to him or the way he was reading the situation. I don't know. I don't know if it's bad writing. I don't know if the character himself is supposed to be like that. It's just.
That's what I think it's everything. I think it's visually, it's not there. I think the writing's bad. I think the dialogue is bad because his backstory, I don't know. Why does he want this? I kind of know. It's like he wants to get back into good graces of his boss. But I'm like, how did you piss off your boss? I don't know. It's like, what's like your power? I kind of get it. But I don't know. So
he's not terrifying. He's not scary at all. Like he's there. Okay. He's a spawn within the army of Darkseid. Okay, cool. But there's nothing there that I'm like, I could think, okay, well, Batman could take him, give him a bit of, because Batman needs prep to fight somebody. Like if you tell Batman what the Steppenwolf specs are and his strength and weaknesses are, he'll be like, oh, cool, I'll find something to mess him up. But like Steppenwolf, I'm like,
like if you look at it once again, a Marvel comparison, comparing him to Iron Man 3 with the Mandarin.
Yep.
Mandarin is not threatening at all. But that's a character you connect with because he's like, oh, dude, he's just a dude trying to like make a living. He got like caught up in something that was over his head. So then at least you have some sort of empathetic connection to the character, right? Even though if he's not threatening, he was kind of a joke. You're like, at least you get to have a laugh with him and go like, oh, dude, that's such a ridiculous situation. Whereas this is like Steve Steppenwolf wasn't funny. He wasn't scary. He wasn't meaningful. I had no connection to him. I had no reason why he was doing stuff. Like, so just the whole character is like, I was so done with Steppenwolf. I much enjoyed like Darkseid. I like the character design of Darkseid. I like the I like that we got to see Granny Goodness showed up. Even though I wish you had just like one line from Granny Goodness, or like her just like going back to like torture somebody in Apocalypse or something would have been like super fun. And then Darkseid. Okay, I like not enough to say I didn't like him, but enough that I was like, okay, I'm interested. Like let's see.
I'm interested. The one thing is that the last scene you see him in, as in like, you know, when Steppenwolf gets beheaded. The design there, the CGIs were bad. I think like the way his face looked, I was like, again, talking about moments that are taking you out of the film. That took me out for a second. I went, suddenly, you know, I wasn't like, I was aware that it was CGI. A good CGI is when you're like, literally, it's seamless within the real world around it. That was like, the eyes looked off. There was something a bit weird about it, so I wasn't really happy about it. But
agreed.
Again, that's being technical and being really picking on tiny stuff. But it was really weird. Going back to Steppenwolf, I agree that to me, Steppenwolf is much more. I keep comparing him to Loki or whatever, but it's like he's the middleman. Yeah, he's supposed to be this big bad guy that we don't know how we're going to get rid of him. But I just event like at the end of it, I don't actually care that he died. I was like, yeah, cool. He gets chopped off by Wonder Woman. I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. But I don't care. You die. And you talked about his powers and stuff like that. There's one thing that, again, a massive, I don't know if it's not a plot hole, but something within the plot I found was weird, is that he's got the power to teleport whenever he wants. Yeah, I'm like, I don't like that power for anyone in every he literally kills the entire thing. It's like
Steppenwolf.
Teleport there. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like the mother box is there. Like, I'm just going to teleport into Wonder Woman Islands. I'm just going to drop in there. Bye.
Okay, so I'm glad you brought up that point because this brings up the last thing I want to talk about in terms of like things that I'm going to shit on about this movie. And it is the boom tubes, the mother box, and the anti-equation,
Yes.
the anti-life equation. So, because actually, that's not Steppenwolf's power. Those are just boom tubes. Those are things that are used readily throughout the whole DC universe. They use boom tubes. So they never explain that to you. Does it matter for this movie? Not necessarily, but just a little bit. Like having one of his henchmen just go like, "Hey, boss, that means we can now use the boom tube to get the other mother box. Yeah, let's go do that." All right. It's like, or like Desaad does something to like give him that ability or something like that, right? So it's like I didn't find that. I thought honestly, like the mother boxes were meant to be MacGuffins, kind of like the Infinity Stones, right? They were meant to be like the thing. For anybody who's not familiar with what MacGuffin is, it's a term for in a movie like a thing that a hero needs to go find, but the thing is ultimately meaningless. In Raiders of the Lost Ark,
it's there to drive the plots. It's there to drive the plot forward.
Indiana Jones has to go find the Ark, but the Ark is actually meaningless in the whole point of the movie. It's about Indiana Jones, right? But I thought actually the mother boxes were a better bad guy than Steppenwolf.
True that.
I was more concerned about the mother boxes than I was about Steppenwolf, and which leads me to the last thing, which is I understand why they introduced the anti-life equation, and for people that follow DC, it makes a lot of sense, and they're going to be super pumped about it. But for anybody that's new to the DC world, it makes no sense to introduce the anti-life equation because it has no stakes in it. Like the question I asked myself is like, how do I feel about the anti-life equation as opposed to how do I feel about the Infinity Gauntlet? And the Infinity Gauntlet is much more terrifying than the anti-life equation, even though the anti-life equation is ultimately more scary when you know what it is, right? It's like Darkseid will be able to control the entire universe. Like his motives are way darker than Thanos. Thanos was ripped off from Darkseid. It's like it wasn't around, and Thanos right now is a much better character than Darkseid ever was. Than Darkseid is, at least in the movie universes. Darkseid is much better in the comics, and that's the part that I was just like, just make me a little bit more scared of it in that sense.
But that isn't that just a perfect summary of what the DC and Marvel universes are at the moment? Is that the DC comics and cartoons are absolutely amazing. Like it's incredible, but the movies at the moment are a bit it can average from great films to absolute dog trash. But then the MCU, 99% of the movies are absolutely amazing, and you have a good time, you have fun, and the characters are absolutely well written, and there's a payoff at some point somewhere.
Yes,
and that's what's lacking in the DC universe. So it's interesting that like you said, I had to go and look up the what's it called, the equation, anti-life equation. I was like, what is that? Because I knew of it, but I wasn't 100% understanding of what it was. And I was like, oh, that's a scary bit of.
And if you want to read a good run that shows you what granny goodness is in that story, check out Mr. Miracle. And that's another Tom King. Lately I've been on just the Tom King run. Tom King wrote Mr. Miracle. It's easy read. You can pick it up. I think it's only about 6 to 8 issues collected in a volume. And it's basically about a guy that escapes apocalypse, who's being like basically tortured by granny goodness. And he becomes the world's greatest escape artist, Mr. Miracle. And it shows you a little background around like the relationship between him and Darkseid and Granny Goodness. It's actually very cool. So there's more to be told there. And I'm like, I just didn't get that sense of dread that I got from like when you realize what the Infinity Gauntlet can do and how powerful it is. I'm like, it's like, because I'm like, maybe I don't know, can just Cyborg just undo it? Can like Batman, can like Superman just like I don't know, like punch it back to like wherever it came from? So that's the part that I feel they don't do well, those stakes. On the flip side though, because I'm glad you touched on this, one thing that I immediately thought of was the battling scene, because there is a big problem with the scene where they fight each other when Superman comes back. The fact that gets triggered by Cyborg's just defense mechanism going off, and he can't control it. We can control literally anything, and he cannot control that. I'm like, that's just like lazy writing. And then the fact that like Lois shows up at just the right time to like stop Superman and have him kind of come back to who he is. Lazy writing. But
I still feel, before you move on, I still feel the trigger should have been Batman's presence.
Yes.
Like he sees Batman and he goes,
yes. Yes.
Sorry,
yes. Yeah. Because they had a connection off the back of the previous movie.
Yeah. So I cut you off before you finished.
But this, I don't know. But the scene, that scene is what Civil War should have been. When you look at the scene of the heroes battling each other in Civil War, it's in this like airport, and it looks gray everywhere, and it's shot way too close. It's like it's a lot of close-up battle scenes, as opposed to like looking at like the big epic scale of like all the Marvel superheroes are battling each other. This needs to be shot in a completely different way. But we get close-ups and we get like banter throughout the fight scene. I'm like, I always thought that fight scene was just like done so badly. It could have been so good. This is what it should have been. This scene, I thought, of the heroes battling each other, because it shows all their strengths. It's like it shows like Flash being fast and recognizing that Superman is just as fast as he is. Like it shows like Cyborg beginning to come to terms with his ability, like because he's fairly new at like fighting people at that point, right? And then we see how like Wonder Woman can be like Superman's equivalent in terms of strength as well, when she like headbutts him back, and everything is just done well. It's just done well. And Batman isn't like trying to like, he doesn't show up with like the bat tank and like try to like bowl him over. He just shows up as like, I'm a fragile human right now because this is a war about gods, right?
He doesn't even try to fight back.
Scene, I thought, just like as far as action writing, perfect, shooting, perfect, just like visuals, perfect. Like I love that scene, especially when you compare it to the Civil War scene.
That's true. Yeah, it's true. I didn't even think about it. Right. I think we're going into Justice League territory now. Shall we wrap it up with what do we want? Do we want more? Or is there something else? Did you want to talk about Michael Bay? I feel like you want to talk about Michael Bay with the over stylized.
No, I'll give a quick shout out to the fact that one of the big criticisms of Michael Bay is that his movies make no sense, and I absolutely agree. Most of his movies make no sense. They're gratuitous, they're self-serving, but Michael Bay has an eye for like framing shots and bringing in visuals and iconizing and just using slow-mo. Because even like John Woo slow-mo, I'm kind of like, because you can make that argument about like style over substance with like Mission Impossible 2. But that's that example of like that style that to me is like just that lands so badly, like that style. Whereas Michael Bay, like his style is actually taking apart like most of the Transformer movies. Like if you go back to like some of his other stuff, it's like it's super cool how it's shot. Like if you go back to like The Rock, and you go back to like Bad Boys in particular,
dude, like the early Michael Bay, the older Michael Bay movies, nothing to do. I think that he's relying over the top with CGI, like he's over relying on that. But like his movies from like the 90s and stuff,
oh god,
jeez, they're really good.
Well, believe it, like Michael Bay movies are in the Criterion Collection, right? It's like these movies are being preserved. It's like because his eye is just that good. And I have to say, like, I think that this is my take. Zack Snyder is a better version of Michael Bay. Sure. Like I think that he knows how to like set up scenes in just the perfect way, but with like at least some emotional land to it. Like you get invested a little bit emotionally. If you got paired up with a better writer, I think it would the whole thing would go better. And so I'm like, no, like he needs another shot at this. Like in the same way, like if Michael Bay could make all those stupid Transformer movies. And I have to be honest, I stopped after the second one. So maybe the ones, I don't know, maybe there's some redeeming quality to them they haven't seen.
No.
But if they allow him to do that, for the love of God, let Zack Snyder make more movies in whatever the hell he wants to do, because we need auteurs. Like Taika Waititi is an auteur. Like he has a definitive point of view. So does James Gunn. But I can't think of a single other auteur, because say what you will, the what's it called brothers,
The Russo brothers.
the Russo brothers are not auteurs at all. They,
No,
they,
no,
they,
no, no,
they
no.
cannot frame a scene to save their life, and they rely on the second unit a ton. And they have no point of view outside, but they're good storytellers.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think Zack Snyder lacks a little bit in the storytelling, but just makes up for, like, dude, we need stuff like that to remind us of we're looking at splash pages in comics. This movie felt so comic booky because it felt
Exactly.
like it had the
Yeah.
pacing of, like, if you read a comic, it's like small, like 9 panels to a page, or it may be, and then you kind of progress, like, panel, this is happening, and then, like, all right, here goes punch, punch, punch. The bad guy comes back. You flip the page, and it's like, oh, and you see that moment of just
Big ass
like
panel. Yeah.
Wonder Woman in the air, or like
Yeah.
Spider-Man framed a certain way. It's like, it just looks amazing, and I'm like, I love that he brought that to a
And,
movie.
and
So
it's
as much
literally
as, like,
what, and it's literally what I would do growing up. It's like there's some comic books that I would just literally cut the pages off because you have that one big box with one, like you said, like, Wonder Woman with preparing to land a punch.
Yes.
And the visual of it is so striking, it's so beautiful that it's something you could actually literally cut off from the comic book and frame. And this is what he does. This is what the Snyder is. And that's what it brings us back to what we were saying at the start, which is that shot of Batman versus Superman in the car.
Yeah.
I could have that framed somewhere, in the office and look at it and be like, damn. And it's the same shot. Actually, funny you mentioned the Russo brothers, but like the one shot I love from Endgame is the one when Captain America stands and you've got the entire army of Thanos on the other side just before Sam Wilson comes back.
Yep.
Like when he's prepared to take the last stand. And that shot, I remember in the cinema, I went, whoa, well, that's Zack Snyder.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the few moments where I went, like, I want more of this, please. Like, the end of Endgame, no pun intended, is one of the best shot things that they've done, because the rest gets shot more like, the rest of the Russo stuff feels more like the Bourne Identity than it does a superhero movie.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
It basically, right? And I'm like, I'm there for, like, those big moments. As a comic book fan, I want more of it, and I feel like in some ways, like, Marvel started to do a little more with WandaVision. Like, Doctor Strange is also a little better at that. Obviously, Guardians of the Galaxy does that very well. Like, the last scene of Guardians of the Galaxy 2, the one I tell you cry at every time. That's such a well done scene, like with all the ships, like doing the funeral.
Slow your stuff down. Slow it down.
Yeah, like the needle drop they picked for that one was perfect needle drop for that end scene of Guardians of the Galaxy 2. So that's my thing. It's like, just give the man more opportunities, because if Michael Bay could do it, dude, this is the new auteur kind of, like, I don't care about substance, I just want style, and we need that as a balance to everything else.
Sometimes a little style is good, like it's okay to slow it down. It's okay to take a bit, it's fine. Like, have a slow-mo, like 300 is the perfect example from that, as a Snyder movie. Is like, there's so many fight scenes in there. He could have done it like any other director would have done it. Just like bang, 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 blood, limbs cut off. But like the slow motion and zoom in and zoom out of slow motion also is so visually striking that you remember that. That, and it does well within the film. Actually, the bad guy in Guardians of the Galaxy is Ronan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, Ronan was a bit of a wet blanket. He was always a kind of a shitty bad guy. He was middle management, always like, oh, I did something wrong, sorry, boss. Like,
in the comics, he's badass though.
Yeah.
He's a Kree extremist.
Yeah, totally. Like,
it makes you a bit scared of it.
That little backstory, now knowing what we know about the Kree, would have been just much more powerful.
Oh yeah.
So sorry, I cut you off with my Michael Bay analysis.
No, it's fine. Well, the question was, do we want more? Do we want more is the question. And I think yes. I mean, it's pretty clear since the start. Even though we dragged down a little bit on the stuff we didn't like, but because it's a 4 hours film, so there's going to be a lot that we didn't like.
Yeah, exactly.
But the things we didn't like, to me, are hugely outweighed by the things I loved about the film. And the one thing, when I finished it, when I closed the Sky app on my laptop, I went, wow. That's the first word I said when he finished. I went, whoa, this is awesome. And which takes me back to my one thing I always said about movies or anything creative, like a video game, a book, an album, music album, if you want to be that part of that world, a movie. If it's not about the at the end of it, the story and everything, the acting, it doesn't really matter. Did that film as a whole, as an experience, what did it make you feel? Did it make you feel anything? Correct. If you were entertained, if you were happy with it, if you feel like you were a 10-year-old kid reading a comic book, like I bitch about the Flash slow motion scene, the hot dog scene. At the end of the day, it's nothing in the entire universe, the entire thing we spent, the entire 4 hours we just spent watching this. It's about 30 seconds of it. Why should I let that spoil the entire experience? I think to me is that when you stopped it, what was your first reaction? And mine was wow. So that means if it's wow, that means I want more. And we keep circling back to what I said, which is why would DC not carry on? I mean, I'm sure there's a bunch of reasons that we don't know about and a lot of politics behind it. But I think it would be a hugely stupid reason not to give people more and not finish this.
And we know that New Gods is coming. It's going to be directed by Ever DuVernay, right? And New Gods, in theory, has to set up Darkseid even more. Like because that's where Darkseid's origins. I'm assuming you guys will talk about Apocalypse and then the other like sister planet next to Apocalypse. I always forget the name of the other one. Where it's like there's like a good planet and a bad planet, basically. That's where like a bunch of gods come from. But I cannot agree with you more, Tom. It's like I just felt happy when I finished watching. I was like, oh, cool. That was like super fun. And more like I was wishing like, oh man, the movies would have been so good to see this. It's like all the visuals are so amazing. But also what I was left with in terms of, while there was a lot of things that I wanted from the plot, I did walk away going, I want to see more of Jared Leto and Ben Affleck in the same scene. They were good. Like, I don't care what you say, like they were good. The timing of that scene is questionable. I think that it's weird to leave it as that weird epilogue.
I was happy with it at the end, but yeah, go on.
I thought it was a little bit, because to me it was climactic. And it felt like a climax at the wrong time. Like that was a really good scene they played out. And I just felt like that's where I'm going, like, how did they let Zack Snyder get away with that? Because that scene clearly sets up more. And if they're saying this is the end, it's like, how would they let him include that? So he's got to have some serious shit on Warner Brothers, or he's got some serious pull.
If he's in bad terms with them, though, that's the massive middle finger to them. Like, look what I can do.
Because people are going to want more of that. I want more. I want the Martian Manhunter movie.
Yep.
I forgot just how cool it is to see Green Lantern in a movie, just because he's just visually interesting. He's one of the most visually interesting characters. And then we have not explored well enough, like all the things he could build with the ring. I'm like, I think that just like visually that would be, it would just add a touch of color to contrast the darkness, or I think that would be really cool.
To me, Green Lantern is like in the DC world, Green Lantern is what X-Men is now in the Marvel universe, which is, I've rewatched all of the X-Men movies now. It's on Disney Plus, and they suck. I did not like them at all.
Really?
None of them. Even Logan, like all of this, like none of them I like at all. Like I'm actually surprised of saying it out loud. I do not like the X-Men, like the Fox's X-Men. Oh God, no. So I'm hoping Marvel's going to do a good job bringing them back.
Yeah,
and it's the same thing now with Green Lantern. Now we've learned, like the movie industry's learned how to handle superhero movies.
Yeah,
they can bring him back and give it a good treatment, because obviously the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern is just it's a hard one to watch.
And Warner Brothers, don't be cowards. Jon Stewart, that's the way to go.
Yeah,
it has to be Jon Stewart.
Yeah. So it's got to be going this way, and I think that they need to bring it back and give it another shot. Like the X-Men is going to get another shot. Fantastic Four is the same thing. The two movies, Fantastic Four movies, are just horrible train wrecks. Maybe not the 90s one with Captain America in it, but the 90s, sorry, early 2000 ones.
I don't even remember.
It's good. I think Jessica Alba is in this. It's okay, but you can tell it's a product of its time. It's early 2000. It's dated CGI wise, it's just very dated, but it's got that weird early 2000 vibe of superheroes, which is like, oh, it's a bit shit, it's a bit shit.
Yeah.
It's for kids, nobody who cares.
Yeah.
And now it's grown with the audience, and it's much more serious business with it. So I guess that's what I'm hoping for them. But Green Lantern, I'm there for that too. I want to see it.
Let's give him a movie, because the whole Green Lantern Corps, there is so much storytelling to be done there. That's a great origin story, great origin story. Give Batman back his movie. Apparently, it was what Sack said is it was supposed to be a standalone movie, Batman.
The basically Batman written by Ben Affleck.
And it was him. Actually, funny enough, it wasn't even Joker centric. It was about Batman and Deathstroke, which we get to see at the end of the movie with Jesse Eisenberg again. And it's like, just create the Injustice League, please. Like, set up Batman to set up the Injustice League. If that means like setting up the Injustice League means we delay Darkseid coming, I'm okay with that, because we got to see they had the stare down at the end, which is pretty cool. Then we get to see New Gods. We'll get more like insight into why we should be scared of Darkseid there. In the meantime, set up the Injustice League. Off we go. There's so much to do here.
And I think we'll finish with that, but there's just too much to build. Like with this 4 hours there's so much to be built on to carry on with. Yeah, it's again, I'm saying that it would be moronic to give it up. Like it would be actually stupid business decision not to carry through and continue with those. But hey, we don't know. We're not in the offices, the headquarters of DC, so we don't know.
Well, and maybe they're going to bring it back to us in a way we can anticipate, because this is the thing: we know the Flash movie is the Flashpoint paradox, right? And that's a reset. It was in the comics run. That was a way of resetting. We got the launch of the New 52 off the back of the Flashpoint paradox.
Yes.
That reset the entire DC universe because it got too messy. Maybe that's the reset we need, but we keep some of these themes and characters, and hopefully Zack Snyder in this to just or at least other directors taking this as the visual direction for the rest of the movie.
The starting point.
Visually. Please say, you can add a little more. You can probably tone down the darkness a little bit, because there's some things that are a little too dark that I couldn't see what the hell was happening. So you can tone it back. But in terms of the slowdowns, the iconizing, please continue to iconize this year. Please continue to give us splash pages as part of a movie. I was so happy to see that.
And I think that's my final point. I think because I keep saying that Marvel has DC has a lot of catching up to do with Marvel, but it's more in what I mean by that is in terms of where the characters are and the attachment we've got to the characters, right?
Yes.
Because it's been set up properly. Once you do that, I think DC should, and that's why I link it up with what you just said with the colors and blah blah. They should completely embrace that style of we're the dark guys, like the anti-Marvel in a way, because Marvel is very colorful, like WandaVision colors, popping colors, assume your position, be 100% who you are. Like DC world is dark, it's got to be R-rated, it's got to be comics for adults, not for the entire family in a way. And it's very dangerous. It's a very tricky thing to do, and it's you'll make a hell of a lot less money. Yeah. But that's who you are, and I think people will relate to that, and people will be respectful of that, if you know what I mean. Yeah. That you've embraced who you are and who your characters are.
Correct.
And I think that's what they should go with. And on that bombshell, and people want more. Yes. Do you want more from us? Yes. Be back. This is how we end the episode. I think
this is how we end
it. Dude, we could talk about this for about 4, 5, 6, 7 more hours, because there's so much to go through. But we've got kids.
Yes. We could talk about this for 4 hours, which is what Zack Snyder did.
Yay, which is what he's done. And I think we should do a live stream and watch the movie together and just comment. That's it. If you guys have 5 hours.
Come listen to me and Tom talk about this for 4 hours while you watch it.
We do a live commentary.
Maybe that's not our first live stream.
Okay. Anyway, let's finish it here. like
Bring
we
it home.
said, do we want more? Yes, you guys want more. You can catch us everywhere where you can get more of our content. So we are on obviously Apple Podcast. We are on Spotify. Please listen on Spotify. We need more people listening there. We are on YouTube, so you can see our pretty faces. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, you can also look. You can see us. You can feel us.
Yes.
You can tell JC he's wearing a lovely, lovely pink hoodie, which I actually love. I do love. But you need to get on YouTube to see that.
Yes.
So where else are we? Oh yeah, we're everywhere on social media. We're on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. I always chuckle a little bit when I say that. We're on LinkedIn. You can listen to us there too.
I chuckle every time I see a post on LinkedIn.
I know, so it makes me laugh too. So catch us there. Please make sure you subscribe to every single social media we're on, but more specifically on Instagram. We're now about 1,100 something people there, which is quite cool. And I think Twitter is getting close to 400. So we are eternally grateful to everyone who's hit the follow button on those two social media websites. And then on YouTube too, if you could comment there, like, subscribe, share. Going back to Apple Podcasts, also give us a review there. It's 5 stars. That's super helpful to us. And a comment. Please let us know what we should change or maybe other topics we should talk about.
Awesome.
I think that's it.
That's it. Well, just gotta say thanks to Tom for being the quarterback and producer of this here venture.
The point guard.
Social media manager, coach, GM, owner, all the above. And through all that hard work is that this podcast is taken off the way it has. And the audience is appreciative, but I am also very appreciative, Tom. So thanks, buddy.
We all appreciate it. But yeah, thanks, JC, for all the research and for sitting through 4 hours of DC universe for us.
Oh, I could easily do that. I love DC.
Oh, we could turn on for it. Anyway, thanks everyone for listening. We'll catch you probably next week. We'll have some more, I guess, more content coming your way. And again, follow us everywhere, share us, subscribe to us, and we'll catch you in the next one. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.
Bye.